Hello everyone. My name is Abdel-Rahman and today I'll be talking about the prototype pattern um, for CIS 476. All right. So what is the intent of the prototype pattern? So it is to specify the kinds of objects to create using a prototypical instance and create new objects by copying this prototype. So what is that? So what does that mean? So the concept is to copy an existing object rather than creating a new instance from scratch. So the existing object acts as the prototype and contains the state of the object. So the newly copied object may change some properties as required. All right. So the motivation of the prototype pattern. The prototype pattern is used when creating an instance of a new object is either complicated or expensive. So the prototype pattern allows us to make a new instance by copying an existing instance. The prototype pattern involves implementing a prototype interface that tells to create a clone of the current object. So basically, it is used when a client needs to create a set of objects that are alike or differ from each other in terms of their state and creating an instance of a such object. So for example, using the new keyword is expensive or complicated, right? So the client code can make new instances without knowing which specific class is being instantiated. The prototype pattern is used when the object creation is time-consuming and costly operation. Creating an object from an existing object is done by the clone method. So as mentioned earlier, we use one object and we make copies of that object. So when the client makes a copy, he or she will not know which class is instantiated, and we use the clone method to copy the created object. All right. So for the example that I'll be using in the program. So the client uses the program to create or register multiple vehicles with the year and model. The interface vehicle, which makes a copy of itself, is the prototype. The client only creates the first object and then makes a copy of this object to create new objects and add more vehicle. So let's say the client creates the first object and assigns the first car as for 2007. Then the client wants to do the same for another vehicle. So instead of creating another object, a copy of the first object is made and used for the second vehicle and so on. So the first object is cloned and then it will be used for the second vehicle and it will be modified. So what is the structure for the prototype pattern? The prototype pattern has a prototype, the concrete prototype, and the client. The prototype has the interface to clone itself, and the concrete prototype, which implements the operation for cloning itself, and the client creates a new object by asking a prototype to clone itself. Only the first object is created. So here's my class diagram. So here we have the interface, which is a vehicle, and will be the prototype, which will clone itself, and here we have the main function, and the main function, which will use the clone factory, which will create a copy of the object, and it will use the car the car class to make that copy, and the car modification will be used to modify the clone or the copied object, and will be used for the second vehicle. So let's jump into the code and see the demo. All right, so here is the interface, which is the prototype, and which will clone itself, and it makes a copy of itself. And it has the make copy function. And moving on to the car class. All right, so here we have the class which implements vehicle class, and here we have the implementation for the make copy. All right, so the this in this section that calls the vehicle superclass clone, and then it casts the results of the car and into the car object. Now if the vehicle did not extend to clonable, we will get this error, and it will print out that the car was not created. Here, moving to the clone factory, which will be making the clone. Here in this class, we will receives any vehicle or vehicle subclass and make a copy of it and stores it in its own located memory. Clone factory has no idea what these objects are, except that they are subclasses of vehicle. So here we have the get clone, and we'll take the vehicle sample, and it will return the vehicle sample and make copy. All right, so moving to the car modification. To the car modification, we have the make, year, and the car as private, and then we have the getter functions, which will get these private variables, and this car modification and class will be used to modify the cloned object. So here in testing, in the main function, so here the first one, we have the clone factory vehicle maker, and which have a new clone factory. We have instantiated the first object. So it handles routing, make copy method calls to the right subclasses of vehicle, and it creates a new car instance. The first car, we have car1 equal new car, and it creates a clone of Honda and stores it in its own memory location. So the first one we have as Honda 1999, and we passed the cloned car one to the car modification, so we can modify that. Then we printed out the results, and we did the same thing for the second vehicle, and we started as Volvo 1920, and we also passed the cloned car 2 so it can be modified. And we did the same thing for another car, and we started as for 2018, and we printed the results. So these are exact copies of each other, the three, and it is of the same object from one object. So looking at the output, we have the first vehicle as 1999 Honda, the second vehicle was 1920 Volvo, and the third one is 2018 Ford. All right, and that's it for my presentation, and thank you so much for watching.